Okay. Can y'all hear me okay? All right. First of all, I want to thank y'all for coming. I love the opportunity to be able to present, tell what's going on, and present the facts the way they really are. And so I want to say a special thank you to Heather. We have worked on this for weeks. It takes a lot of work to put this together. You know, I have all these ideas, and she puts it in slideshow form, and then I have to come up with talking points. And also Joey, our IT guy, who is not here, but I hope we don't need him. But we'll see what happens. But we do have a lot going on. This is a very long presentation, and we've removed several things that would have been a lot longer than this. But I'm going to start out and talk about some numbers. And I think everybody knows that we have a 9% sales tax in the City of Ozark. It's extremely important to realize that that 4-cent tax is basically what we live off of in the City of Ozark, except 0.5% of that goes to the Ozark City school system. And what happened there when we changed from 8 to 9% years ago, the schools lobbied for half of that, for 0.5% to go towards school, the building of the new school. And it was approved. The issue with that is that school will be paid off in 27. The way the agreement reads, that ends. We don't pay that anymore. So that'll be something the city council and the school system has to address. The interesting part about this is when that was approved, when the school was, right before the school was built, that 1.327 million was $750,000. So it has continued to increase over the years. I want to tell you a little bit about our budget. We're now at about a $19 million budget, and that does not include, like we run our EMS service as a separate standalone business. It's about 2.6 million. Some other things like our shopping center down here across the street, it's a standalone business, so that doesn't get commingled with the general fund. Of course, our gas tax, special funds like the COVID funds that everybody just went through the last few years, and of course our grant funds. We do all of what we do with about 170 full-time employees and about 65 part-time or seasonal employees. So it's a lot of people, a lot of great people working on these projects. This is gives you some idea from 18 and 19, the last 6 years of what our revenue has done. We contribute, or I contribute a lot of this to when COVID hit, people started staying at home, shopping online, and we're continuing to see this grow. If I use the term SSUT, that is Simplified Seller's Use Tax. When I was with the county, we passed that statewide as an internet sales tax. We didn't want to call it sales tax because there were so many counties throughout the state that don't get sales tax money, like Dale County. All of the sales tax in Dale County goes to the Dale County school system. So that's the reason county government was trying to call it something different to where they would have access to that money. But that has continued to really grow. We put several new businesses in that are really helping. Probably the two that helps the most is Farm Systems and Dunham Sports, because both of those businesses they sell products that you couldn't hardly buy in Ozark prior to them. So that's really a positive thing right there. This is something that we talk about a lot. This is a 2-year-old slide that Retail Strategies out of Birmingham did for us. And what this does is it totally does away with what we used to call our population. The 15,000 or whatever you want to call it means nothing anymore. When I talk to folks like the car wash people and the Taco Bell people, the only number they're interested in is that 29,654. They said those people are here during the day, and that's who's going to be doing business with us. We also use the same system through Alabama Power when we have the Crawdad Festival and Claybank Jamboree. And last year, during the Crawdad Festival, we just block off a time. We had 15,900 people here during the Crawdad, and then Claybank, of course, football season had started by then, so it had dropped off to about 12,600. But that is a game changer for us. And I'll tell you something that not long ago I had a business I was talking to, and one of the questions they asked is, what is your school system doing population-wise? I said, well, I got one system that has declined, but I got 2 in my trade area that's increasing. He said, good answer. So we're taking advantage of this and claiming all that trade area that's out in the county. I want to go over a few things that, and I'll try to make this as quick as possible. Alabama League of Municipalities, we play a major part in dealing with them. We just went through an Economic Development Academy, something they'd first started, and Ozark was one of the first groups to do that. We also got an ACE accreditation, which is Alabama Community of Excellence. That all comes through the League of Municipalities. Alabama Department of Commerce, all these projects we work on, we have a contact there that are for state incentives. So we deal with them a good bit there on all the projects that we do. Participation in local boards, the Ozark Area Chamber of Commerce, probably the smartest thing we've ever done is move the chamber in here. It keeps this house up and operating. We've got 2 museums upstairs that we're constantly having Nova Sale people here going through the Warrant Officer Museum. She also manages our farmers market from here. So, you know, we have events like this, but she's... Oh, yes, Miss Lael Walden does the tours for us here. I about forgot that. Wasn't in my notes, Rosemary. The Ozark Utility Board, I serve on that, not as a voting member, but as mayor, I serve on that board. And we asked a couple of years ago, we asked the utility board to let's get more involved in funding projects. And so we have put a little program together. I'm not going to go into it. We're after so much profit, we are setting money aside. And I'll touch base on that in a few minutes on a couple of things that we've already done. Southeast Gas, I want to go over this in pretty good detail because this is such a big deal. It's a growing revenue source for the City of Ozark, and I'm going to hit some spots that I went over. There was 3 of us, had 4 meetings in Montgomery, and it was with the governor, lieutenant governor, speaker, and the Senate Pro Tem, 4 different meetings. But Southeast Gas, if y'all don't know, is made up and owned by 14 cities in this area. And it gives us an opportunity to get together once a month as mayors from those cities, and a couple of them have city council people serving, but it is tremendously beneficial for us to get together like that. There's 35 communities within that area. We're the largest geographically owned municipal gas company in the United States. We serve 33,000 customers. We're committed to economic development. That's the reason we were meeting with the governor's staff. I get $11,000 a year that's given to me. I can use any way I want to in economic development. Well, I turn it over to ODEC, and then that way, you know, they turn around and help me with things here in Ozark as we need it. We do some site development stuff. They have 2 economic development people that are hired that work for the board. One is a retail person, one is a commercial type guy. But the biggest benefit to this is a few years ago, we created a sister company within Southeast Gas called Southeast Energy Authority. And what that is a wholesale gas and electric company to where we go out here and we try to market gas and electricity to other parts of the country. And we work with like J.P. Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, and they do the financing on it. We sell it. And we just did a project. It's called the Salt River Project in Nevada. It was a $2 billion wholesale transaction. That's the largest one ever in the United States. So it is a really big deal for us to stay engaged and work with this group. I'll go back to that in just a minute on the Southeast Gas. Regional planning, I'm also the chairman of that board. That's a board that 7 counties are involved in and all the municipalities within the counties. And they help us with things like community development block grants. We have public transit in some places. We have Head Start programs, but we're doing some stuff called brownfield assessments right now. And I had 2 projects that I submitted for that and we got it. Once we do the assessment on those 2 projects, we're going to turn around and apply for money to actually do the cleanup on it. Drop down to the Ozark-Dale County Economic Development Corporation. You'll hear me call it ODEC. That was formed in 2010. When it was formed, it was made up of the Dale County Commission giving $75,000, Ozark $150,000. We since added Daleville at $12,000. When I was chairman of the commission, we went after a lodging tax that we passed that allows us to fund economic development projects. And the reason I did it from a county level rather than the mayor in Ozark and Daleville doing it, it allowed me to collect on Fort Novosel. So when they rent out their own base, we get that lodging tax as well. So that has worked out great. It started out at about $75,000 or $80,000 a year, and we funded some small projects. Now that's about $115,000. In this last session, we introduced another 2-cent lodging tax that does basically the same thing, except it goes to the general operation. The reason we wanted to do that is because I didn't want to have to go back to Dale County or to the city council and ask for more money. So that gives us an additional about $115,000 a year that we're able to do. And you'll see a few things that I'll show later that we're involved in that it really helps us to be able to do those. The reason I wanted to do it is city councils change, county commissions change, and it's also made up of some business investment too. Business owners change, so those monies stand a chance of fluctuating. The city money or county money, 3 votes, they could stop it in any budget. So that helps to really supplement what we're doing. Nonprofit agencies, Heather and I spend a lot of time working with them. We do things from support letters to help them with finding grant funding and that kind of stuff. Our state and federal legislators, we have all kind of projects like RC&D funding that we get through them. The money that comes from this home and house comes straight out of the state's general fund and has for several years. The farmers market next door came out of the ag commissioner's budget, about $200,000 2 years in a row. And then tourism grants that all of the legislative and Senate folks have access to. They're constantly giving us that money for Crawdad, Clay Bank, and those kind of things. Fort Novosel, Lori and I spend a lot of time on Novosel. We're there at almost every event they have. And in return, those people are here in Ozark for every event we have. So it's a big win-win for us. Heather and I kind of double team AUSA, and we do have our upcoming breakfast event on August the 7th at 7 a.m. at the Civic Center. And I'm calling it Novosel today, but on the 17th, it'll be Fort Rucker again. That's the official change of the base name. Dale Medical Center. I can't say enough about Dale Medical Center. We have Holly Smith, myself, Reva Skirtman, and Vernon. We meet once a month, and we call it a stakeholders meeting. There's no agenda, and we just talk and try to help each other with whatever projects we got going on. But Dale Medical Center, if people don't realize it, they're debt-free, they're diversifying, they're doing things, they're making money on home health and those kind of things, and it's got them in great financial shape. We're in the process of have been for 2 years, working with Wallace College. It started with Linda Young, and putting together a training facility at our hospital that trains medical staff, nurses, and other people. That's done. We're just waiting on the funding to drop. It's about $2.9 million, but it's going to be huge for us, and we've committed to do a few things for them with the city as well. Wiregrass Forums. That is a group of Wiregrass leaders and elected officials that meet once a month at Hoppergrass. And I can't tell you how many deals has started between those people in that room and people like myself, just sitting there eating breakfast, and it's just amazing what a good group that is. We don't allow any media there, so we can pretty much talk and do what we want to. We don't have to worry about what happens at that point. Ozark Dale County Schools, we work very close with them. Even the county schools, I attend a lot of their events, and it goes back to what I talked about on the, with the internet, being able to track who's coming in and out of Ozark, because they're a big part of our city. Now I want to go back to this. This is what I was talking about with Southeast Gas. These colored in states here are where we have wholesale gas deals. Southeast gas distribution money of $124,000, that is based on the gas consumption within each municipality. That's pretty much steady for us. We don't have any large industry that uses lots of gas like a Eufaula or Troy. They really blow us out of the water as far as gas consumption. We're probably about number 5, I guess, out of 14. But what's interesting is all of these deals, I called our office in Andalusia yesterday and I said, I want some projections. This is the 24 numbers. The 25 numbers will come out in about 2 months. The Southeast Gas number is going to stay the same. The Southeast Energy Authority, because we've done so many deals in 25 that we're not getting the money on yet, we're going to get about 25,000 of that in 25. But in 26, when all those deals have been in place for a year, that Southeast Energy Authority number is going to go to about 146. So that is a big shot in the arm for us. It's a lot of extra money. That didn't even exist like 7 or 8 years ago. So big deal. This is just showing mine and Ryan Campbell's kind of commitment that we're going to do something new every year in the downtown. Last year we put those Christmas trees up. This year we've been working on the gardens downtown, Magnolia Gardens. This thing has already had 1 concert, and I know there's 3 more scheduled, but there's all kind of weddings and those kind of things that go on there. This is probably the most talked about thing that people totally misunderstand. This is our 4-cent gas tax. This is what we pave streets with. And you can see in 2016, the mayor and council did a bond issue, $2.6 million, and paved 61 streets. That it's costing us $217,000 a year. We did a similar thing with the county when I was there. The only difference is we did chip seal roads at about $70,000 a mile compared to $130 a mile when they did it. So you can see how many streets we paved since 2016, 187 streets in 55.38 miles. But part of this money comes from Community Development Block Grant. We don't fool with a schedule. There's a schedule of how streets are going to be repaved. The only time that changes is a Community Development Block Grant is low income. So we have to pick a section of town where there's going to be little mobilization and we can do a large area. Last year we did Hull Street, between $400,000 and $500,000 with paving. But this, you can see we got 480 streets in Ozark, 160 total miles, so it takes a long time to get around. The one good thing is in 31, when that bond pays out, you'll either have $217,000 to go back into these each year, or we can do another bond issue and pave another 70 or 80 streets probably. But that's a very complicated part because the price keeps going up. And you can see Campground Road is in terrible shape and East College Street is as well. And that's what's, the letting on that is in August. So we'll hopefully be getting started on that soon. This is a Trip 2 funding project that we did out on the access road, out on the highway. That is in place. That is money that somebody in the state's going to get. So if we don't go after it, it's going to another location. So we went after that. State DOT is big on access roads because it gets traffic off of 231. So we got that. We've got to have it paved. On either end of that, there's 2 properties that are old gas stations. When I mentioned Brownsfield money a few minutes ago, that's the 2 that we're doing the assessment on right now to see what it's going to take to clean those up. And then we can work with the property owner, clean it up, and then hopefully be able to market that later. This is the same funding that when I was with the county, we did County Road 18 where Wayne Farms is. That was about a $2.5 million project. This is just an example of what I was talking about with the utility board. This was when we built Taco Bell. The developer called me one day and he said, Mayor, we just can't afford to put $112,000 into a sewer line that we don't own. And so I met with him and I said, get your folks to engineer the sewer line where we can pick up Lot 3, Taco Bell, and Lot 4 and run it around to the back of the shopping center. And let me see what I can do. So he did it, came back $112,000. So we went to the utility board and asked them for 50. I asked the Taco Bell guy, I said, will you put the 62 in if I set up a deal for 3 years where I give you 50% of your sales tax back to satisfy that 62,000? And then we went to the property owner and we said, we'll do all this and make this project work if you'll repave the parking lot when we're finished. He agreed to that, so that worked out, 4 groups involved in that, and it has really paid off. Holly has been showing that Lot 3 within the last week or so. It makes it so much easier when you can say that sewer line is already there. This is 2 big projects I'm extremely proud of. Dunham Sports. We did about a $700,000 incentive to the developer, which is John Watson. He did about $1.7 million worth of work to that building. But that is items that you cannot buy or could not buy in Ozark. They're doing extremely well. Their projections are almost running exactly what they thought they would be. So we're really proud of them. Andrews Place Apartments. I'd gone to the Andrews family probably 2 years ago before this happened, and I told them, I said, please give me first shot at that property. Well, one day the son-in-law walked in and said, I'm here to sell you the property. And so we wound up, Holly and I got with John Watson, that actually started at Wiregrass Forums, and explained to them we thought it was a great place for apartment complex. We did offer some incentives. We did a long-term lease on that parking lot because we owned part of it. But that has turned out to be great. There's 28 upscale apartments. We can't find anything that's been built in Ozark in the last 40 years that is close to that kind of complex. So last time I checked, they were full and doing extremely well. Matter of fact, we're looking for other properties for them now. Our EMS service, I can't say enough good about them. We're one of the few cities that have our own EMS service. And you can see, run 5 ambulances, and we have 1 transport vehicle that's not up and running yet. But we have a new location out on Parker Drive. We have 14 full-time staff members and several part-time, 100 to 135 runs a week that we make in EMS. We did 1 expansion onto one end of that building, and at some point we have to do another one. But we did something this last year that I'm really proud of. We introduced legislation doing what's called the stretch bill with EMS. It's like police and fire has, meaning on the retirement system that for every 5 years they work, they get an additional year. So we submitted that here through Steve Klaus. When it got to the state, they made it statewide legislation. So that gives us a great advantage over an Echo or a Care or a Pilchers or anybody that we're trying to compete with on EMS service because they are not in the state retirement system. This is just where we brought Magnolia Gardens into the entertainment district. This is a map that's going to be displayed in all 4 locations that sells alcohol downstairs. And so those will go up in a few days, but you'll be able to walk anywhere in that area with an adult beverage. I can't even keep this updated because we keep selling flags. We're now at 796 flags. We've sold like 28 this last 4 or 5 days. It's doing extremely well. Our tank is being repainted as we speak, and the helicopter will be as well. Another project that we really went out on a limb to do, this is a corporate hangar that's out at the airport. We had been building T hangars and renting those hangars out to people. But I wanted to do something that would show off our airport. So I've made this pitch to the airport board, and they agreed with me. Before we got too far along, I called Adam Hartzog at Dothan Airport, told him what I was wanting to do, and I said, what do you think? And he's the manager of the airport. He said, I think you're going to take one of my tenants if you build it. Well, sure enough, we got it built, and we stole the Bondage Ford jet. It's out there in our hangar today. But the beauty of this is, about 3 weeks ago, I pull up at the airport one day, and there's 3 of these jets parked out there, and our parking lot is completely full. This guy is our #1 salesman. He tells everybody how quick it is to get from his pickup to in that jet and back from the jet back into his pickup. So he had 2 more buddies flying there. They had big, huge crowds with them. Our parking lot was full, so I don't know where they were going, but they flew off. Our parking lot stayed full for several days. So it's a great thing. This Pro-Am steel, and this is kind of hard for you to see. This is the company that built this hangar. That door is the first one they'd ever built. It's the first one anywhere in this part of the country. Since then, there's been 2 built. He can take from his jet with a remote control and let that door up and down. So he just pulls up there, shuts off, and then pulls it on in and back out. But it's great. But this company has this hangar on the back of all of their display stuff all over the world that they go and show their products. The Ozark hangar is, and that's what that picture is showing. This is just a layout of our airport. You can see where the Bondi's spot is. There's 4 more hangar spots out there. We're actually working with some people now that we think that one of them for sure will do something at some point. So, but we're just going to keep, doing everything we can. And on that hangar, I'll go back to that in a little bit. We get FAA money. That was an expensive hangar, about $1.4 million. But what we did was we saved some of that money up, and we accumulated that money, and then we were going to do a local loan and pay it off with our FAA money. I'll explain to you we did it different a little later. But this is something that most people have no idea that's available. There's a couple of things in the state right now that we have access to. It's called SEEDS money and Growing Alabama grants. Both of those are designed to show projects ready, property ready for us to break ground and do things on. This is, last week I was on Novacell with the general, and they're looking at more and more to privatizing helicopter training. If you go to our airport for 10 minutes, you'll see black 505 Bell helicopters flying in and out. That is CAE out of Dothan that has an Air Force training contract on the Dothan Airport. So they just do touch and goes and things on ours. This piece of property is one that I'm wanting to expand. You can see where that road dead ends. There's a gate there. And we're going to, through a Growing Alabama grant, it's going to cost us a total of $150 and the $38,925 to clear that, seed it, extend the road, tie it to the apron and that kind of thing. We're getting that ready for in case we have one of those contracts come along, somebody wants to do exactly what CAE is doing in Dothan. But the way that works, a Growing Alabama grant, is any corporation in Alabama that has a large tax liability, they can pledge half of that tax liability to a project that we have going, as long as it's approved by the state and by the corporation. So Synovus Bank has agreed to fund $150,000 with tax credits and pay on this project. Another one is, I mentioned ODEC and them having additional money to do additional things. We bought this piece of property, as the ODEC Corporation did, from the school system back a couple of years ago. Well, Motorbuilt's been wanting to expand, but this property is so grown up, you can't even walk through it. So we put this plan together, and basically all we're doing is clearing and going to seed over it. But on this 24,856, same thing, Alabama Power has agreed to fund that. And this is an example of one that we've already done. This is in the industrial park upon 231. REA did a $221,000 grant for us there, and we were able to put new street lights up. We cleared the timber, we grassed it. We put this new billboard up that we now own, so we can change the billboard. We only have to pay for the cost to put it up. So it's we have people, matter of fact, next Wednesday, meeting with a company that has interest in doing an expansion out there. One of the things that we've worked on probably for 2 years, that's probably the biggest thing we got coming. This section here is the old Bell helicopter property. This section here was the Bell property that is now ours because they constructed this hangar on the City of Ozark property. The dividing line is about right here. So Bell wanted to continue leasing this, we would not agree to leasing them that unless they were willing to sell this to an aviation company. Let me back up. When they first announced they were closing and going to sell, I immediately went to the Planning Commission, had this rezoned to where it's got to be an aviation-related company. It's a great thing we did, because shortly thereafter, one of the poultry companies tried to buy that building. It would have been a disaster for our airport. So we are in the process. We have a lease agreement for the part that Bell wants. The Bell-owned property we have under contract with a company called RMCI, and that is a great company out of Huntsville. We're hoping to close that just any time now, and that's going to be a great thing for our aviation college, because they're planning on training aviation people, and aviation people will be able to train some of their people. So we really hope we can pull that off. That's just another picture of those buildings from a different angle. This is an expansion that we just renegotiated our Brittany Times agreement, and part of that negotiation, we took back 4.6 acres. We turned around last meeting, we approved to sell that for an expansion to Ecor. They're going to build a 50,000 square foot building in the back section of that property, and that is, their property joins that, so it'll just be a big benefit to them. This next project is showing you some of the sites that we have in Ozark. You probably never see these. These are already approved on our demo list. We budget about $140,000 a year to demo and to do weed lean type stuff. This is an example of what happens when we demo them. Sometimes those lots turn into other projects. This one down here that says John Harper Development, that is a big project across from the aviation school that he's working on. And you can see the little layout of the property, and this goes from, that's what used to be the old breakers that's been demoed. So there'll be an access off 231, and you got a access to Lakeview Road. So this is going to be like a mixed use development, and it will be hopefully like hotel on the front and retail and residential on the back side. But we're continuing to work on that with Mr. Harper and his crew. This is two projects that we've just completed. This is the batting cages we had behind Eagle Stadium. The school system wanted to enclose them, so we did a partnership with them. They provided the money. We handled the kind of overseeing of the construction, but it's turning out really nice. We got a few more things to do. That's the backside of Flower Center. We're not completely done with that, but that was the part of Flowers that was in such bad shape it was dangerous. I mean, the building was like walking across the trampoline floor when you went in there, full of asbestos, and people were going in there cutting copper out and stealing stuff out of it. So we took part of our demo money and abated the asbestos and then demoed that, and we still got a little cleanup work to do on it. All right, this is where we get interesting. This is looking forward to things that we got going on. All right, this is the property that we purchased for the sports complex. But this is so much bigger than a sports complex. This is about growing the north end of the town. And if you'll see right here, this doesn't show up very well. This is some property that Anna-Laura Parker has, her family or state has, and we've tried to buy that property forever. This is the Ozark Housing Development, which is available to the city or the school system if we have the right use for it. So as a part of this project, Dale Moats is right here, and he has a vacant lot right here. We're wanting to go back up to Dale's property and attempt to do an access road that runs parallel to 231 down through this property, all the way to Anna-Laura Parker's property, so that one day if we can get our hands on this, it'll open up to this property here. So that's the property that we actually bought, was A, B, and C. This is a total of 77 acres. This is what we envisioned on the Roy Parker Road side, is having some lots over here, and on the Roy Parker Road side, it'll most likely be just the 4 lots across the front. We also picked up 3 billboards that we own on that property. That's 10.26 acres, so it's a long distance across there. So that is the map that we're using to clear the property. That keeps us out of the wetlands, and that was awarded to Hilton Cooper, who will be starting on that at any time now. This is just some shots that we're showing where we're going to clear and leave all these large trees, and then we're going to look at it and assess what we have to take out. We're going to try to leave and work around as much of it as we can. There's 2 buildings on the property. We've already abated the asbestos siding and removed it on the house there. There's another, like a pole barn deal. We've not decided if we're going to tear them down or try to redo them. That house is very, very nice on the inside, but we don't know what our usage would be at this point, but we're going to keep working on it. This is just a shot that shows kind of a view across the property there, and it's a great piece of property. This is going back to where I talk about the access roads. I mean, the turn lanes here, the access road would run through here. We also have an issue on 231 and 27 right here. We've had 25 accidents here in the last 2 years, 1 fatality and 1 kid was entrapped. So we've met with state DOT, and I've asked them to do a trip 2 funding project and incorporate all this together. They're all about cleaning up these intersections and these turn lanes, so we feel real good about that, but that's under review right now with the state. This is something that when we were in conference back in May, you did a little QR code on your phone, and they asked you that question across the top. They asked a lot of questions, but what would be wonderful for our community to achieve? And you can see in the middle, the largest thing there other than lottery was sports complex. But that just shows you what a big deal that is across the state. Last Friday night, I'm sitting in a restaurant and I get a text from the supervisor that's with us SSMC. They're the ones that did all the topo work, the surveying and everything on the property. And you can see his comment here about how nice the property is on Roy Parker. Great asset for the city. And would be such a great spot for sports complex. You know, we have had a lot of negative about it being a swamp, and wetlands, and that kind of stuff, but I think they know better. So, what's happening since we've announced this is I've had one company reach out and said, "I need 8 acres close to your sports complex." So we actually have a 14-acre tract, 5.7, and a 4-acre tract. Sewage already running through it, water on it. So we're working with them to try to put something together there. All right, this is a final 2 or 3 slides. Between 21 and 25, and I'm just wanting to show you that we can afford the sports complex. From 21 to 25, we've done over 50 city projects and programs that's been funded partially or fully funded through grants and donations. We have a book that has all that laying out there. Before I became mayor, I knew I was going to want to do some things that were going to make a difference, was going to cost some of us additional money. One was taking our employees from a tier 2 back to a tier 1 system. So I started looking at things that would save us money over time. So I reached out to Brian Spears with Fraser Lanier about this bond that we had with the city at that time and started having him run numbers on it. So right after I got in office, went to the council and I said, I'd like to redo that bond issue, and it was at a much higher rate than what we had an opportunity to do it at. So we refinanced that bond at that time, and Brian Spears walked into my office when we were doing it one day and he said, "Mayor, you got $472,000 you can spend on a capital outlay project." I said, "But Brian, I don't want to spend it. I want to apply it back to the loan." And he said, "Well, the only way you can do that is do it over the life of the loan. It just whatever your payment was, it's lowered each month by that amount." I said, "That's exactly what I want." He said, "Cities and counties don't do that." I said, "But good business folks do." So that's what we did. It saved the city $472,000. This is just a few of the things that we've done that have been big ticket items. Most of this renovation money on the library, we did get donations and grants. The farmers market the same way. Going back to the corporate hangar, we had accumulated $600 and some odd thousand, and we were going to finance the rest of it. When we got around to it, Chris Peters doesn't like to spend money, but he likes to borrow money less than he likes to spend it. So we looked at our money, we looked at our reserves, and we said, why don't we just pay the balance of the project and take the money that we get in from the FAA and pay ourselves back. So that's what we wound up doing on that corporate hangar. The access road was funded through A-Trip money. ADA playground was funded through a grant. The fire department, and y'all not gonna believe what I'm about to tell you, but that's 2 fire trucks and some other equipment. That's 2 1997 trucks that we're replacing. We're still waiting on one to be here in August, we hope, the ladder truck. The Civic Center, this started out as a energy services project with the Southern Company and Alabama Power. And the way that was going to work was we were going to do the work, they would do the financing, so you didn't have to do a bond issue, and we'd basically pay it through a power bill. Same thing happened there. By the time we got it done, that was about a 2-year project. Interest rates had gone up to the point Chris and I sat down again and we said, hey, we got the money, we can just pay for it. So we paid that $1.8 million renovation on that Civic Center. Oban Everett Park, we totally redid the gym out there, rubber flooring and all. We paid for that. Eastgate Gym, and then Oban Everett, we did the tennis courts, the fence, and then the big playground that was there. We paid the $149. I want you to keep these numbers in mind. When you take the corporate hangar investment, the fire department investment, Civic Center, Oban Everett, and Eastgate, that's right at $4.9 million. That we won't have that expense for many, many years to come. If we had not done it, we'd not done those things, we still drive our 97 trucks around, we would be sitting at almost $9 million in reserve. We've grown this city reserve since 2000 to 25 from $750,000 to $4 million after we've spent $4.9 million in doing those things. I want to go back to this just a second. This is just showing all the work that we've done on the Holman House. I didn't list that stuff. We're working on the 3rd museum here. We've painted. We just put in a new elevator here, roof. We're doing work in the basement. All of that work in the Civic Center was lighting, sound, the stage, LED lights, air conditioning. Since 1975, nothing had been done to that Civic Center except just minor things. That was 6 90-ton units we changed out on top of that building. So this is the tennis court project that's underway now. We didn't show that on there either, and we are paying a part of that. That's a 50-50 ADECA match money. Again, 2.5 years to pull this project off. And Jackie Murphy was my grant writer that was working with us, and she came down with a very rare cancer. And I wound up executor of her estate and handling her will and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, when she went to have her will done, she brought it back to me one day and she said, look who's getting all my money when I leave, when I die. And wound up, she left it to the City of Ozark for me to use any way I wanted. So $236,000 of that $786 is Miss Jackie Grantham is paying for. So we're probably, time we do in-kind service and that, we'll have roughly $100,000 of general fund money tied up in this project. But that didn't take but 44 minutes. But I'll be glad to try to answer. I'll be glad to try to answer anybody's questions, but there's a lot of things that's going on that's not up here. We are wide open every day working on projects that you just can't, you do these presentations, you just can't keep pouring it out there. But few cities our size is sitting with $4 million in reserve, I can tell you that. The bond issue thing I talked about where we put the money back in, that's never been done in Ozark's history. They've always bought police cars, or they've